Lauren Meadows filling in for Buddy Martin on this Tuesday evening. When it comes to the Gators, believe it when you see it, with the Gainesville Suns' David Whitley and former number one ranked quarterback, former Michigan and West Virginia quarterback, my friend Eric Boykin. Hit the like and subscribe button on the Buddy Martin Show.
Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Well, I'm not David Whitley, but sorry to disappoint you. I don't get the Gainesville Sun, but I do read David Whitley. Hi, Lauren. How are you?
How you doing, sir? Good to be.
Sorry to jump the shark here. We don't have David in. He's not in the studio. He's probably still powdering. So as we endeavor to get him back on the air, I'm happy to sit in with you for a minute and talk a little bit of pigskin. So how you been lately, my friend?
Good, man. We got some listeners on. Tommy Seal, Nat Blaylock, Wally.
Oh yeah. I saw you on just mixing it up on Shane's show. Everyone's talking about Lauren Meadows.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a pleasure to be around great company, and everybody knows who Shane is. So to be asked to be on this show was amazing, and
yeah,
Shane was a contemporary of mine as far as football is concerned. Really, both of ours, but it's just at this point now, man. We're at week 0. I mean, we got football on Saturday, in Ireland, no less. But the show's gonna go on. But one of the things that we can kind of jump into, so Delaware State. I don't know if you saw this. Delaware State was scheduled to play Hawaii this weekend and missed their flight.
Oh, wait, I did see that.
Yeah, missed their flight.
We're going to see a lot more of that, aren't we?
Yeah, well, yeah. When you talk about USC trying to get to Rutgers and Oregon, get to Maryland and those kind of things, it's going to be real interesting. But I feel bad because obviously Delaware State's a historically black university. Yeah. Probably once in a lifetime trip, a money making trip. To be able to go out there and play against the Rainbows, and I really hope. I know they're trying to make arrangements. But they had, I guess, flown up to JFK and things didn't go well, so they missed a flight.
No,
they're trying to make arrangements to get out there. So, good luck to the Delaware State. We hope they can make it out there.
What is the mascot?
What's that now?
The mascot for Delaware State.
I think it is the Yellow Jacket.
Trivia question.
Yes, it is. Ask one of our listeners to look that up for us. But I know a good friend of mine is a Hall of Fame softball player from Delaware State. It's a PA at UF right now. So yeah,
dude, your people go deep, okay, man. You got people like finger like the United States.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So hopefully we get David in. We got David Whitley, and then a gentleman that I've known for over 40 years. Eric Boykin was the number one quarterback in the country in 1992, played his college ball at Michigan and West Virginia. So he'll be able to break down some quarterback play. We'll talk about Graham Mertz and some of what some people deem his deficiencies, not being able to drive the ball downfield, and some of what goes into that. And then Eric and I have had some conversations on this whole NIL mix and how that affects college football. So I'd be interested to get his take because he keeps his hands on the pulse of things,
Right. Just like you do.
I try to.
Here's like a death grip across the United States.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We'll take some comments, some questions, and
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we
ab-
will.
so how you doing? I mean, you ready to go? It's less
Look,
than 10
you look
days
okay.
or
You know
about 10
what, dude?
days?
First of all, I don't appreciate your attitude. First of all, I don't appreciate your attitude because you know that in a very short amount of time it will be the 1 year anniversary of a very traumatic experience for me.
I'm trying to be upbeat. That's what you mean. You don't like?
No, you're not. You're not. You're actually being passive aggressive or
Oh,
whatever that means because that's all therapied. But I'm telling
we
you, because
we
Salt
have to
Lake was a
we have
year
to wait
ago.
till like what 3 in the morning because it was around midnight Pacific or well Mountain Time. So about 2 in the morning, and yes, we were sitting at a Airbnb table.
My middle finger is I'm flipping you
Talking
off
about
right
the
now.
state of the Gators, and yeah,
State of the Gators? Is that what you're gonna say?
we're
That's what
gonna
we're
try
gonna.
to put that to bed. Though hopefully this game against Miami will allow the team to put there's some different characters out
All
there.
right. You
I
know
think
what?
some new blood that I think you're gonna become enamored with. I think you're gonna like some guys. Asa Turner's a guy I think
I don't think I ever have a problem with the guys. That's not my problem. I don't think that's been my problem. That's not
well,
been my problem. I don't think I've ever came off of my problem. I don't think I'm going to get into. I mean, I mean, David's not here now. You might have to deal with me. I'm just throwing.
right. Well, that's true.
I don't care. I guess that's how I said it. I just throw things I get mad about.
So I guess then while we're on the subject,
Yeah. What do you
is
got?
your issue? I mean, I know it starts at the head,
No,
but does it filter down to the ancillary levels, or do you find that some of the concern starts at the top?
I think it always starts at the top. I think that's just the kind of person that I am. I think structure is everything, and I think that's how this team is built. I think that's the design,
Mm-hmm.
and so therefore, yeah, whether I like it or not, that's it. But and I don't. I'm not. This is not a Billy hater thing. I'm not getting into that. I'm not going there because I get a lot of hate mail for it, and I'm not going there. I'm just saying. That I think as Brendan Martin Gator fan, which I am, by the way, and people don't think I am. I'm tired of getting really excited about right now about the season. I'm really tired of it. So we're going to be good this year. No. I read the tea leaves, Brendan. I saw. It's like I caddied. We talked about my caddying yesterday. My regulars come out. No. I found the swing today. I found it today. I've got it this year. This year is going to be the year, and we're going to excited. It's going to be special. There's something special is going to happen, and I think I am burned out on the something special is going to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
that's Gator side of it. I think, as professional side of it, seeing what I've seen this year, yeah, it's hard not to get excited about what's been happening in recruiting. It's hard not to get excited about, the changes that have been made. I want to, I just I don't see what I got to see this time last year, Lauren, which was Salt Lake. I didn't get to see the team operate as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that looks like.
Right.
And that was a problem last year.
Right. Well, if we can get David on, he wrote a good piece in the Gainesville Sun about, when it comes to the Gators, believe it when you see it. And that's kind of where I am. I am I'm week to week now. You know how to say, I'm injured. I'm injured as a fan and as a
Christian.
As a pundit is I'm injured. And what I mean by that is I'm week to week. So, for everything that you hear, there are some things, and I know Coach Napier is not the kind of person that's going to come out. I like somebody to come out and say, yeah, we need to play more physical, or yeah, we need to win our win routes on the perimeter. But he's not going to do that, and that's fine. So what you're left with is, and I think David hit it right on the mark, is you believe it when you see it. You believe it when you see it. And, we know, I like the quarterback, and you know that. I like the running back. You know that.
I like them too.
I like the receivers.
I like all them.
And I like the guys coaching them. And I even like some of the guys on defense. Like I think Will Harris is an upgrade in the secondary. I like Gerald Chapman's fire on the defensive line. And obviously, how Rob, who we both know, feels about Ron Roberts. But the issue is, will those three parts defensive line, linebackers, and secondary come together. And obviously, we saw in the first play in Salt Lake City that was not the case.
No.
So with that, and then so on and so forth throughout the season, where they were historically bad on defense. So is this the year that Florida can put all three parts together? Billy Napier speaks about it on a consistent basis, talking about playing complementary football. And you and I both know what that means in the big scheme of things. But when does it actually happen where you're creating turnovers, you're winning the turnover margin, you're changing the game in special teams and those things? And those things have just been missing over the past 2 years on a collective nature. And that's why they're where they are now.
Well, those are those win close games. I mean, look, this isn't rocket science, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, we make it rocket science, and I get it. And NIL and transfer portal, oh my, I get it. I get all. I know that it's like you need a CEO and a head coach now, almost like another sort of position, like as if here I am talking about the coaching staff getting bigger, but I joke, but I'm just saying that it's just there's so much to do, right? It's so much to keep up with it, and it was a lot before, and clearly going to be a lot now. I think Billy's great at that. I think he's a great CEO. I think he's unbelievably the most organized person I heard and that you've ever met in your life. I've said this before. I heard a story about him from Scott Strickland that was given a luncheon about a year, almost 2 years ago. And it just talked about how he would take track and notes of each and every hour of his day of coaching. And the following day, from the year before, he would reference that day, and then he would try to, get better. That he prepared during COVID because he knew he was like getting his coaches together. Then he had a list. He was ready. So I think that is awesome. If you're Gator fan, does that style of person need grace, time, whatever the hell you want to call it, to build a program? Yes. Is Florida one of those programs that was clearly the barren or the cabinets were barren, right? Yes, it was. Obviously, one player going into the NFL last year. So Ricky Pearsall. So I think we saw a lot that was uncovered in his process of rebuilding. And I think that is imperative, for us to, sort of support that. But this schedule and this situation and the way Gator fans are in general, and the way, I don't know how it is sustainable at like a 4-win season. I don't know what happens then. And then I don't know what we're left with then. Because sometimes if you don't build it all the way back up and you break it again, boy, you really burn it down.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, and I think that's where things are now. Are we at the point where, because a lot of people would say, well, Billy Napier's here through 2026. Well, what if he goes 3-9? Right. Is he still here during 2026? I mean, we know a 6-6 is probably a good deal. 7-5, 8-4, people would be ecstatic. But
right.
I don't know if the guarantee is there. But like, to kind of circle back to what you said about the CEO, I was with one of the big donors this weekend, and was speaking to him about some things. And two things. He echoed your sentiments on the CEO, and that Billy is so meticulous and so dialed in and knows every speck of that program. But that may lead itself to another question. Is that something he should maybe focus on and then allow someone to call plays? Because that was another observation that was made.
Like an offensive coordinator kind of a person?
A full-time offensive coordinator.
No, that would be radical.
What'd you say now?
That would be radical. Who does that? You mean like a guy with a headset up and a booth and then like sees a different perspective and stuff? That guy? Okay.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, somebody that could come in and say, hey, give it to me. I got it. I know your system. Maybe I was brought up in it. Very similar concepts. And you get on the headset and you talk to both sides of the ball, special teams, and then I'm up in the booth looking at it from 30,000 seat view, and I'm calling plays.
Dude, Maverick needs a goose, right? Like like all great teams, like we can go on. Laurel needs a hearty, Ham needs an egg, my friend.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you gotta have a Dan Mullen in the booth, a la the Tim Tebow years and Urban Meyer, who said he wouldn't have won his natties without Dan Mullen in the booth. It's just that different voice. But I hate what I hate is beating on the same drum over and over again for this long a time. I'm trying to be positive about this upcoming year because a lot of positive things has happened. I'm not trying to be biased. I'm just saying I feel positive. I think defensively, Florida's better. Hands down, they're better. I think you would agree with that. I think we had that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, as of now, where does Florida sit as far as weak spots are concerned, other than coaching, top hand stuff? If you were to say weakest spot right now that didn't get fixed, what would you say?
With all respect to Gerald Chapman, because I think he's coaching his butt off, I'm not sure we made the strides in the interior defensive line. Like Robert Turner said, LJ McCray is a grown man at 18 years old. He looks the part. If he stays healthy, he will play on Sunday. But I'm not sure we improved where we got those 6'4", 300-pound guys that can push the pocket and then allow those edge guys like the LJ McCrays, the Kelby Collins, the Justice Boones, the Tyreek Sapps to get that pressure and then force that pressure back to those interior linemen. I think, that would be the one place I think now Joey Slackman, has a motor and can really move, but it didn't really impress me from all the places that they grabbed in pieces. I didn't see that one defensive lineman that was like, okay, he's a difference maker on, third and short, or he's a difference maker on passing downs where he can actually push the pocket. And, we welcome in David Whitley. And, David touched on that. I mean, we're going to go back to it, David. We've been lauding your story, yesterday, talking about basically believe it when you see it when it comes to the Gators. And I thought that was well put and well written, and, just kind of, lead us into that, where we are right now and your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, first, I apologize for being late. Technical difficulties.
That's all right.
Thank you. Blaming on technical difficulties.
Sorry. No worries. Yes. We have a lot of those around here.
Yeah.
I caught where you were saying that, you haven't seen a defensive lineman who, is a difference maker, a guy who really collapsed the pocket and be a problem. I've seen one, unfortunately, he plays for Miami, called Ruben Bain.
Correct.
And he might be a problem about 10 days from now. But as for the column, we've been talking because it's been talking season for months because there's no action, and you can be as optimistic now, and there's reasons to be optimistic. The things that we've all talked about. The improvement of just the physical ability. A lot of guys, the Tyler Miles effect. The weight coach. Everybody. It's funny. I think every player who's been in, you ask them what's the difference this year, and either the first or second thing out of their mouth is Tyler Miles. The way, and the difference he's made as far as strength and speed and stuff like that. And that's something to be optimistic about. The number of returning young guys coming back who have the experience, after the growing pains of the last year, something to be optimistic about. Solid QB, decent, skill guys, more depth everywhere. Picked up some key guys in the transfer portal. I mean, all these things are positives and give you a reason to be optimistic. But as you were saying when I joined in, you haven't seen a real difference maker on the defensive line. There may be one, they may evolve into one, but when you talk about a Ruben Bain, who was a first team freshman, all ACC, and would probably be playing in the NFL. I don't know if he's eligible this year because he's only 1 year out of high school,
right?
But he will be soon. There are some just still question marks there. Like the guys, they look good, but there's a lot of promise right now, but not a lot of proof with some of these guys.
Right.
And so, and you hear things all the time, about so-and-so doing this. And I just find it sort of amusing that, in the limited time that anybody has to look at practice, that we can draw these firm conclusions on guys. I mean, some guys, we're going to make, like I said, Eugene Wilson, he's a stud. Only stays healthy. He gets the ball. He's going to have a big year. I think Mert's good, solid QB. I think that the skill guys are okay. I think that the defense will be better. Of course, it could not be worse, but I think that it will be better along those lines. But the plays that they have been making, and they're looking good, like you heard from in the second scrimmage this past Saturday, that the defense was really giving the offense some problems, and they weren't. Mertz was being pressured, and they weren't getting really explosive plays till late and all that. And that is all stuff to be thankful about or optimistic about. But if you're a Florida fan, you think the defense is better, but then you think, okay, they're up against our offense. So, does that mean the offense is a problem?
Right.
You really can't tell until they get on the field against somebody else. You can't gauge what they're doing. You just have this. It's sort of like a Rorschach test. Here's the ink blot. Do you see half glass full or the glass half full, glass half empty? And it's totally okay to be glass half full right now. I mean, as I've said, if you can't be optimistic, in August, the season's already gone. So yeah, another thing, Billy, he made the necessary changes in the staff. That's something to be optimistic about. Not just Tyler Miles, but certainly Ron Roberts. I think will make a big difference and all that. But again, when you get a 15-minute viewing period out of every practice, not even every practice, about 2 out of every 3 practices, and like Saturday at the scrimmage, we were there for the first 15 minutes, so we saw we saw guys stretch and go through position drills, and and then you just hear things after that. And some of them, are true, but a lot of it is just impressions of what it is. But you still hear people declare solidly, that I hear that Austin Barber, he's good as All-American. He may, but who's he beating? Who's he going up against? And does that mean he's good, or the guy he's going up against is not Reuben Bain? But he will be next Saturday. So we'll find out fast about that kind of thing. So I'm saying for now, it's just it's good to be optimistic, but don't be too optimistic. No reason to be pessimistic, but just the only honest assessment right now is saying, well, okay, just sit back and wait and see.
Right. Well, the one thing I would say about Bain is you can at least scheme around some of those guys, so that may help a little bit. But, it kind of goes back to, I will say this, and this is where I put my coaching hat on. In most cases, which is a good thing, good football teams, usually the defense is ahead of the offense at this time, so I'll put that to bed so everybody can relax in some ways. But like you said, David, I mean, you really don't know, and like you said, solid quarterback. And then I say above average quarterback. Somebody says serviceable receiver play. I think they got really good, and it's that kind of thing that lends itself to the guessing game, because you could be just as right as I am. I could not walk out of here after this show and said, David doesn't know what he's talking about, because you and I both know we literally have seen the same thing, for 10 minutes of practice or that kind of thing. And then we've got our sources, and you hear things like leadership with Graham Mertz, control of the offense. But we go back to, we talk about, somebody said, well, the defensive line is huge. They've been huge.
Yeah.
It hasn't been.
Size has never been the problem.
Not the issue, right? But then they also lose Jamari Lyons, who Napier pointed to could play both nose and play end. So you basically lost your starting nose or one of your depth ends, somebody that could slide. So maybe they brought Big Dez in at nose, and then they move, in different situations, they move Lyons outside the end. But now you still have those issues. So it's that kind of thing. I think we are kind of in wait and see mode. I wrote an article that Asa Turner is 3, he's 3-0 against, or 2-0 against Cam Ward, seeing Cam Ward twice. Is that a key? You know,
Right.
does he
Right.
bring
Or,
something?
right. Or does it, it helps he was playing for Washington
Right.
and Cam Ward was playing for, was it
Washington
Washington State?
State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
and Washington State picked. I think he threw like maybe
Right.
4 picks and 2 Apple Cups. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And Asa Turner, I think, had a fumble recovery in one of those games. So it's all these things that you can point to that are positives, but then you also have that negative that is out there, and it's not only just what we see or we hear right now. It's also that 11-16 record with those head scratchers that somebody asked me. They said, "Well, what's up with this this mat that they have?"
Yeah.
He said, "It's gonna drive people crazy." I said, "Well, a lot of people use that.
Right.
A lot of people use that mat. The problem is that it is now a subject of discussion for the Florida Gators.
Yeah.
So it's not that the mat didn't exist. The mat, there's high schools that use the mat.
Oh yeah, it's common.
We had a hot box that we called it when I was in college, and the only person that didn't have to be in the hot box was me because I was one of the returners, and everybody knows who the returner is. So just going out there, but the fact that is a subject of discussion is not a good thing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is funny how I remember when Joe Houston sort of dropped that. Like at the start of training camp, he said, "Yeah, we've got the mat, da da da." I remember, right? Well, can you describe it? And you're right. I thought, well, I've seen those at high school games, and you can go online and buy them for like seems pretty steep for $500. That's what they're going for, But and it just seems so like it's a twister thing, but it just seems so basic. But and you think teams should need it, but they use them in the pros.
Absolutely.
And I mean, just asking Houston says, well, why weren't they being used here? And he just didn't. I mean, he wasn't here last year, so he just said, "Well, I don't know." And I don't know if that would have helped last year. I think it would have. If nothing else, like there are 10 spots there, as you said. There's always one for like the kicker or the returner, because that Jeremy Crouchaw is not going to be the guy in there if the ball's on the 23-yard line. It's going to be smack going in. But the other 10 guys, they need to know who they are. And the fact that they didn't know last year, it may seem like remedial football, but the fact that he said it, and now they're thinking, oh man, these guys just needed to be led by the hand in this simple basic thing. And you're say, well, it's not that unusual, but it is just become like the symbol of ineptitude that they're out there.
Yeah, and that's
this kind of thing.
I mean, here's this guy that gives really big money to the Florida Gators, and he's like, I don't like that. He said this is going to bother me the entire year.
Yeah.
And he explained to me, and then that's what I said. I said everybody uses it. I said, but the fact that you and I are talking about it is kind of an issue. And but I think it speaks to, David, and we've talked about this a million times, is when you talk about a football team, it's just always something. If it's not the offense, then it's the defense. If it's not the defense, then it's the special teams. We talk about the special teams miscue. That was actually the one game where the defense played pretty well, got a stop, Florida's driving, special teams miscue. It's one of those things where that Arkansas game looms large, hence the mat now.
Yeah.
Now, but here's the thing: does the mat keep them from running out on the field prematurely? No, it doesn't. They could have been on the mat and then left them into the
right.
So it's always something, and it's just one of those things. And
and those mistakes. If you look at the special teams, just the stats. The special teams as a whole. As far as coverages and distance and punting average, and they weren't that bad. They certainly were. They were respectable. Not not great, but respectable. But that handful of plays that where they just looked like Keystone Cops. Oh man, that may be too old of a reference, but where they just the simple things that just should happen maybe once, but the fact they happen probably 4 times. Start that Utah game, it implanted it. When you had the 2 number 3s, and then it just gave this thing an entire image of ineptitude, when really if not for those 3 or 4 plays, they were decent special teams play, but those just made things so out of proportion to what was really going on. But I mean, those 3 or 4 plays were also so key. Like the Arkansas thing was just, that was all. I was talking to somebody the other day, and he said, "Yeah, I knew from the start when Arkansas got a touchdown on the first possession on the bobbled pass or something. He says it's going to be one of those days, where where we ought to win, but somehow we're gonna just kick it away." And but it was such a classic way to kick it away, right? And that was and it was such a consequential game because I mean they win that, they're in a bowl, a lot more momentum going into the off season and the whole thing. But hey, it's what's done is done. Now you get your mat and you move forward.
All right, we're going to shift gears, and we are going to kind of circle back to the quarterback. And like we said, we have our different opinions on Graham Mertz, but I want to bring somebody in that I think can shed some light. Gentleman I've known for quite some time, and look at him, got his colors on. Former, I won't mention the first school there, but former West Virginia quarterback Eric Boykin, the pride of Meadowdale High School. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Lauren. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good, man. How you doing?
Doing well, my friend. Good to hear your voice. I know you're excited about the Gators this season, so I'm interested to see what you got to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Well, David Whitley, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this guy. About 30, I don't even know, Eric, now, 33 years ago. 32 years ago, this guy was one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and some little sawed-off receiver got to run around and catch passes from this guy, and somehow a school in Ada, Ohio thought I was good enough to go up there and play a little football, and this was my guy. We worked out in the summer, but Eric was part of a Sugar Bowl team at West Virginia and actually played the Gators, and but.
Somebody surprise. I didn't know we were going to have a celebrity on tonight.
Oh no,
that's
man.
a treat.
So, but just glad to have Eric here. And Eric, we've been talking about really the state of the Florida Gators, but you could speak to it as a whole, just simply because Graham Mertz was a quarterback at Florida. You're familiar with him. He was at Wisconsin, before coming to Florida, and had a great year. Passed over 70% completion percentage. 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But the issue has been a lot of people, if they say a negative, is his inability to drive the ball down the field. It was what people would deem as a lot of dinking and dunking. And my response has always been that just doesn't happen because you drop back and want to throw the ball 40 yards. So being a former quarterback and seeing a myriad of different defenses, just shed light on just how that kind of evolves when you talk about the downfield passing game and explosive plays,
Well, that could be two things, and you guys being in practice would know better than me. Is it the arm strength, or is it the design of the plays? Because if you guys are running kind of like an offense, we're more of a West Coast old school system where a lot of crossing routes, then that would kind of answer the reason why he's throwing underneath. But I do remember watching him at Wisconsin, and I don't recall him driving the ball down the field. And in a conference like the SEC, if you don't have a guy who can really, really drive the ball down the field, that can be extremely problematic. Because, the kind of teams you guys are playing against, I mean, I'm sure they're stacking the box. So I don't know what you guys got behind him, but unless he can really, really drive that ball down the field, you're going to have some tough sledding this season.
Yeah, well, my thing is a lot of times they see, and Eric, we could talk X and O's, and, they see a lot of one high, because people aren't things like that. But that one high is sitting like 22, 25 yards back, which, once you, speak to that, because once you drop back and you see that guy sitting there, it kind of eliminates, you kind of come off of that, because if his first 3 steps is backwards, you're like, okay, I'm coming back down. I'm working my curl flat, or I'm working my intermediate, or things like that. So, that's kind of always been my reprieve to Mertz to kind of, in some ways, let him off the hook.
Well, here's the thing. Well, if if you see a safety 20 to 22 yards back as a quarterback, you got to know it's going to be pressure come from somewhere. You may not know all the time, but you know it's coming. So that could be, can the receiver separate? That's something else we have to look at, because if a team's always playing you with like a one deep guy 22 yards back, they don't feel like these receivers can get open on the underneath routes. So, what you're saying, Lauren, is that it could be a mix of him not having the arm strength, receivers can't get separation, then also conservative play calling, and if we're just being honest.
I think it's never really one thing, like you said, because I mean, a lot of it is scheme that, they're in the just, obviously dinking and dunking is almost, considered almost an insult, but that's the Billy Napier way. And a lot of it just short passes and a lot of jet sweep kind of stuff, that kind of thing. And you're right, the receiver separation, that wasn't a strong point last year. I think one thing Billy Napier has said that I don't know if it's so much an arm strength issue. I think Mertz has an okay arm.
It's okay.
He's not. I mean, he's certainly not going to remind you of John Elway, but he can get it down there. But I think a lot of it, Napier was indicating, was that he was scarred by the Wisconsin thing because he threw so many interceptions, and he came in thinking it's not an arm strength, it's a mental strength thing, to where he said, I got to go out there and I got to take more chances, as opposed to, he was more concerned, just deliver the mail on those 7 to 10 yard things, and don't take the risk when it's there. Yeah. And he did some, but I think they want to, they've been working all spring to make him a little bit more of a gunslinger, to where if the deep pass is there, you got to take it more. And that's where we really see the arm strength. But yeah, you're right about, the number. I think that they were like one of the lowest ranked teams in the nation last year for explosive play, or even throwing deep, over 40-yard attempts and over 30-yard attempts. It just went in the repertoire. I mean, as you said, it was a combination of a lot of things.
And now remember, most coaches, they'll never tell you, but I'm from Ohio, and Woody Hayes always said, when you throw the ball, 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad. Yeah. Most coaches really deep down inside really, really don't want to take chances. They never admit it, but it's the truth. And if you got a guy who's a little gun shy back there, I don't know if you can really change that. When he was at Wisconsin, they did a lot of double tight, one-man routes. So I don't think you can change that. That's who he is. That's in his blood. That's in his DNA. So, I mean, you guys just may be stuck with that, because when you play in a run-first offense, I don't know how you can just change and all of a sudden be a guy who's going to throw the ball 30 to 40 times a game. I just think that's who he is at this point.
Yeah. And I was almost intrigued to hear you say you don't know what's behind him. We finally found the guest who didn't say DJ Lagway.
Hey, well, Eric's been there too. He's been a backup and a starter, so he knows.
Yeah, I've done both.
The guy talking about. Go ahead.
And I'll be honest, man. My Mountaineers, we're in the Big 12 and living in Big 10 country. A lot of times I focus more on the Big 10. I focus a lot on the Big 12, but I do focus on the SEC. And it's going to be interesting, because I always believe if you have a great O-line, a great front seven, and a great quarterback, you're going to win. And, SEC, my guy at Texas, Ewers, I'm really familiar with him. He can drive the ball downfield. Milrose had a good year last year. And I know it's a lot. This is a Gator podcast, but I love Carson Beck. Oh. He's accurate.
You're a lot of scouts. Yeah.
He can drive the ball downfield. Yeah. And I think when you're really looking at it, you probably have to put Texas, Georgia, and Bama towards the top of that SEC. And I still know Ole Miss has the dart kid, but I'm just not sure about their O-line.
Right. Well, I find it interesting that guy that threw for almost 4,000 yards in high school was quoting Woody Hayes, but I digress. But no, I mean, and I think that's where it is. You have such star power at the quarterback position in the SEC now.
Yeah.
That wasn't always the case. A lot of people jumping on Nico up at Tennessee as well, based on his postseason performance. And, I think that, it's going to be interesting because you talk about not just the talent at quarterback, but also just the schedule. And I know we don't want to keep logo watching and things like that, but is it going to behoove the Florida Gators to take that risk it or no biscuit kind of approach in the passing game, or kind of try to play better defense, David, and then just kind of come back to earth offensively and be as efficient as they can to kind of help them stay in some football games?
Well, yeah, we'll find out real fast, because Miami, you were talking about that defensive front, it's not just Reuben Bain. I mean, they've got a bunch of guys that they brought in. And, that to me, the biggest question mark about this team is the offensive line coming in. And, we're going to find out real fast what they got. And because I think the other pieces are there on the offense. I mean, Montrell Johnson, I think the backs are good, good enough. There's enough receivers they brought in what they had. And I think, Trey Wilson is, he's a legit stud. And I think Mertz, at worst, he'll be a good caretaker, but to be a good caretaker, those are the guys you look around and they got a line in front of them to protect them. And, that's one thing Mertz didn't have last year. So that if the line improves and is decent, then we'll know. But right now, that's to me, that's the ultimate wait and see, another 10 days.
Right. Now, Eric, another thing you could kind of touch on is we talked about kind of taking the next step, and that's where I kind of think Mertz will really take the next step when you talk about really being part of the game plan and having total control of the offense. You look a little bit more skeptical, but I mean, just speak to, like when you were at West Virginia, your last year, and now you're really a focal part of the game plan. And coach is asking you, okay, what do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to throw out? What are you not comfortable with? Speak to when that happens and how that makes you feel as a quarterback, being able to come in and say, okay, yeah, coach, I like this. I don't feel, or maybe this protection is better here or what have you.
Throughout the week, usually on every, when you're playing on a Saturday game, Tuesday and Wednesday are usually the big workload days. So during Tuesday and Wednesday, you'll come in with the game plan. You'll kind of go through and rep the new plays, new formations. And then usually on Thursday is kind of when it gets to, the nitty gritty where you're like, hey, coach, I don't feel comfortable with these routes. And not only that, the coaches may come to you like, you didn't look good throwing those routes. So I think between Thursday and Saturday is really when you get that script of your first 10 plays. And it changes depending on down and distance as well. The good thing about football, it's almost like art. You may come in with a design, but it changes based on, hey, what on first and 10, we get a penalty and we get behind the chains. You just never know. But usually going into the game, you got a game plan. You kind of got your what I like to call the plan of attack, and you kind of figure out this is what's going to work. But I'm looking at some of your people in the chat. I mean, everybody's concerned about this O-line. So if you guys cannot block up front, us talking about Mertz, it really doesn't matter, right? You got to keep this guy upright. And unless you guys can do that with the schedule you're playing, it's tough. It's tough sledding in the SEC if you can't block.
Yeah. Right. And that's another reason they were dinking and dunking. He didn't have time a lot of times last year.
Yeah. And that's true. That's my point. I think that's what we're bottling it up is I'm not necessarily sure that, it's tough to tell. Like we talked about it all night, David, it may not be the offense. It may be the defense. It may be special teams. There's always something. And everybody talks about the fact that, they're not driving the ball down the field. But then like Eric's saying, there's other factors in play and things like that always come into that. And that's the narrative though is, well, just drop back and throw the ball deep. Well, that's not it. There's so many factors in play that come in with that. And, and that's what I was trying, and that's nice to have Eric on here, somebody that's been back there, that's understood and, really, and Eric, was there a time where you ever went in and said, well, and I know like when we were in school, we could throw deep on it. But once you got to the next level where it almost was like, it's not going to happen today. So I got to change.
Totally. So what you didn't tell them first is that I went to Michigan first, then I finished at West Virginia.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I got a funny story. Played West Virginia, so we played Nebraska in the '94 year. Actually, you guys got bad memories too because they got you guys that year too. That's the year they won a national title. But going into that game, it wasn't happening. You know, they had an NFL front seven. If you remember the Peter brothers, you remember them? They had your guy Rucker, defensive end, who played for the Panthers for a long time, Mike Minner. So going to the game, we knew like, hey, we weren't going to have a lot of time, whether we kept in one or two tight ends and the running back chipping. So you knew it was going to be tough sledding. And I just tell everybody the big difference between the SEC and the Big Ten is that front seven. And if you can't protect, and remember that you're asking this guy to do something, he's really not a passer. This guy is a run first, play action kind of guy. So it's one of those things where is he going to be able to, go empty backfield or a four receiver kind of guy and just drop back and throw the ball? That's not who he is. He needs a strong running attack. And without that strong running attack, I just don't know.
Yeah, and that gets back to, will there be holes there? And they had more talent up there. I mean, it's deeper, but we were asking Billy last night, said, are there still jobs up for grabs? And I was thinking, at this point, you want that pretty much settled, and who your studs are and who your twos are. But he says, well, there's some things still there, and so I say, that either speaks to they got a lot of good depth and it's competitive, which is good, or the guys they bought in thinking that they would own those jobs haven't locked them down.
Right. Well, David, and I'm going to ask you that, David, at one point, and that kind of seems to be par for the course for Coach Napier, and you sitting there, I mean, as a journalist, I mean, is that something, do you really feel like that at this point they still have a lot up for grabs, or is that just, where coach speak is nowadays? I mean, is that something, because like I said, we could think of it either way as far as Florida Gators concerned based on the sample size, but do you really feel like even in year 3 that, I know they brought some new guys in, but that really they're still less than 2 weeks away from the Miami game, some positions up for grabs?
Mm-hmm. It depends on the positions. And I think that, as far as coach speak goes, he takes what could be seen as a potential negative, but he takes the positive out of it, or he puts the positive into it, because, he says, we're going to play a lot of guys, and, you do need to rotate a lot of guys in there. They want, 7 to 8 at least offensive linemen coming in the rotation. So he says it's good to have that many guys and competing, and which is true. But, by the same token, unless they're all, SEC caliber guys, there's got to be a drop off there. And just how big a drop off, and like when you hear that certain guys have moved in, but they're not, the guys that they were counting on, they said to lock a position down, that they're being pushed by, a redshirt freshman or something like that, or sophomore. You can take that 2 ways. That, hey, that sophomore, he's coming on strong. They didn't know he was that good. And that may be true, or is it the other guy? He's not quite what he's cracked up to be. It's hard to say, but Billy's like all he's gonna, he will put he's not making this stuff up, but he's going to give you the glass half full interpretation of it, on that kind of thing. And there is more competition. Like when he first came in, if you look back 2 years ago, I mean they were maybe one deep at every position. Now I think at most they do have the drop off from 1s to 2s isn't nearly what it was 2 years ago. So it is more competitive along those lines. Yeah.
I'll push back on you just a little bit, David. If you don't know who's starting 10 days out, you're in a world of trouble.
And that's kind of what I mean. David won't say it, and I get that.
Hey, you're 10 days away from playing a top 20 team in Miami, a state rival, a team that you're recruiting head to head for about 90% of the recruits. He has to know who's starting at this point. If not, the Gators in trouble.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. Like, is it? And at what point? I mean, I guess sometimes is it? And maybe inauthentic is not the best. I mean, but Eric will tell you, we dealt with a lot of guys that came at you straight up. They didn't sugarcoat it, and maybe that's where I've been built from now on. But you played. Eric was it Moeller or Carr when you were at Michigan?
Gary Moeller.
Moeller, okay.
Coach Carr was defensive coordinator.
Okay.
Les Miles, offensive coordinator. So
and Don Nealon at West Virginia. So some household names. Was it like that with those guys? I mean, where it was like a lot of, or were they guys that came out and kind of told it like it was, or was it kind of the same thing where you kind of, hid behind the curtain, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, amongst the team, everybody knows who's starting. But when you're in the media in a situation like this, he may not want to let Miami know who's starting. But at the end of the day, everybody inside that locker room, they know who the starting offense is. They know who the starting defense is. So it's not any confusion, because at the end of the day, you do have to get some continuity. It's just not like you can just throw pieces out there, right? You got to get guys playing with each other. They get comfortable with each other. So at this point of the year, you know who's starting, and everybody's been working on the game plan, right? Because they've known they've been playing. They're going to play Miami for 10 months now. So it's been all Miami all throughout training camp, through spring practice, through June, July. So I would think both teams at this point are going to be well prepared, and it's not going to be any surprises. Because guess what? Billy Napier is who he is, and Cristobal down there, that crew, they're who they are. So, only thing difference is going to be personnel. But, a lot of these guys, it's just like anything. We are who we are, right? If you're a running coach, you're a running coach. If you're a passing coach, you're a passing coach. It's not going to change a lot. So it's going to basically be in a game like this. It's going to be passionate. The kids know each other, so it's not going to be any secrets for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. There's more clarity in that locker room than even if the clarity consists of we're in trouble at that spot. They know it.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I mean, I think that at this point it's more. And we say good evening to our sage. He's fresh off the festivities. Hope everything went well, buddy. Say hello to Eric Boykin there. Are you on mute?
He's been celebrating the victory of the sheriff.
Of course, yeah.
Oh,
you there?
He's on mute.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, we're having elections down here, Eric. This local election, and Buddy apparently is plugged into the political machine in Panama City now, so he had to go.
He knows the sheriff up there. So
okay,
yeah. So, but it's funny. We talk about just, I mean, once again, where this team is, as a whole, is just it's going to be interesting, because I really do think, and this is not the fan in me. I think they're, you look at a lot of games, and I've never seen a schedule where, yes, they're tough games, but then there's like games that almost have to be like must win. Where you're talking about, like, Miami is almost like a must win. Kentucky at home is almost like a must win. UCF at home, God forbid.
Double must win. Yeah.
There you go. And so it's not even about navigating the schedule, but it's about there are games that you have to win. And I've never seen a year where it's been the previous 2 years, then you get this schedule dump with the new teams coming in and all the big dollars and all those kind of things. And then you have these pinpoint points in the season where it's like they got to win these football games. I mean, to lose to Kentucky 4 straight years, to lose
FSU, they got to win.
Well, yeah, FSU, but that's so far down the road.
No, it don't matter, because this guy here is my stepson, who tonight
oh, yeah, well, that's true.
Another victory for the sheriff of Bay County. He's a no. That's the only flaw he's got. He's a no.
Right.
And I'm married to one. So I got to have that win. Okay. And first of all, and I also love hearing Eric. Hello, Eric. I'm Buddy Martin. Great to see you. You have
Nice, buddy. Thanks for having me.
it's not me. It's Lauren's show tonight, and you guys did a great job. I
Uh-oh.
almost cut in because I was enjoying the conversation, the football talk, but we had to pay some bills.
I understand.
We have to pay some bills and make sure we mention those folks. So hang in there, Eric. Don't go anywhere, okay?
Okay.
Just gonna say, I want to thank our sponsors. First of all, Meldon Law. Jeffrey Meldon had a nice conversation with him the other day. He's, of course, a dude. We like to say he's a dude, and they have a terrific organization called Meldon Law, and they'll fit your legal needs. And if you need a lawyer, I encourage you to call Meldon Law. They won't back down. Then our good friends at TitanMRI.com up in North Florida in Gainesville. They specialize in MRIs like you don't see anywhere else. They will have, for instance, that you come in and schedule an evening or a weekend night, come in and do your MRI if you need to. And I know, Lauren, you know about those. And they'll have, if you don't have insurance, you can pay with cash or card, not as expensive as normal. And they want to make sure you have a good experience as they could possibly have while you're having your MRI. TitanMRI.com. And finally, Renstar Medical Research. They do a lot of great job of clinical trials in Ocala. And Renstar Medical Research seeking dollars and answers to the health questions of today. Now, to see if I can make this work, I'm going to give you, I had a great time today talking to somebody that I have a great regard for. And I think you'll know who I'm talking about as soon as you see. If this works, it may not work. Let's see if it does.
I was a disaster. I needed to get all the reps I could. Thank God, a lovely group at Gator Country gave me an opportunity. Buddy, of course, spearheading that with Brendan as well. And that was really where it all started. I had a niche in college football recruiting, which was a little rare at that time for a female. And I think that allowed me to sort of have a platform that would have been a little bit different. And really, that was the launching pad for me. I used that to continue on. I started off with Fox Sports. That was kind of my first job out of college, did baseball coverage. And then when the SEC network launched in 2014, I started there. And ever since, I've just been trying to kind of get the next opportunity at ESPN. Lots of hard work, lots of sacrifice, but it would have never been possible if not for my time in Gainesville.
So that was Laura Brothers. She was our intern. Brendan Martin should take credit for discovering her. She's gone to great stardom. She's coming home on the weekend of the Miami game. She'll be doing Plaza America. She'll be doing SEC game day with Paul Feinbaum and the troops. I want to get that in there. And I've got a longer interview with her tomorrow night on my show. Now, you guys get back to finish with football. I didn't mean to interrupt a good conversation.
Oh, no. It's all good.
I don't think anybody was complaining looking at Laura.
Yeah. The best.
Not that we're not beautiful, but
right. Yeah. But no, I mean, I think at this point, we talked about it, and you throw in, like you said, the must-win games and where that schedule is. But Eric and Buddy's been around, seeing the ins and outs, the highs and lows of Florida football. But I think, the last thing I guess I want to talk about is, we have these week 0 games, but I want to get Eric's opinion on this. Eric, we Big Ten country, and they got some outsiders coming into Big Ten now. They got some outsiders coming in big time. And what's the pulse up there in the Midwest with these Westerners coming into the fold?
I think, candidly, I think people are excited. How many times do you get to see on the East Coast the UCLA in Oregon or Washington, a USC? So I think it's going to bring a lot of flavor. But, although I live in Buckeye country, I'm not a Buckeye, but they've spent a lot of money to upgrade that roster this year. So it's going to be interesting. I saw they named Will Howard, the kid from Kansas State, the starter for this year. But they're absolutely loaded. I don't think a lot of people are arguing about. I think they probably have the best talent in the country. So it'll be interesting to see if they can close the show. But, don't count Michigan out. They're going to be tough. They return a lot of O-line and D-line. And people forget that what Harbaugh did up there with 3-star guys, he took down the likes of the Washingtons, the Michigans and Alabamas. You know, it wasn't about he had better Jimmys and Joes. He just had tougher Jimmys and Joes. So I think the culture up there is going to carry them a long way. But an outside team in the Big Ten, and my dark horse is Penn State. Unfortunately, my Mountaineers, we play them opening weekend. Fox Big Noon kickoff will be there, and Penn State's going to be tough. I mean, I just think Franklin's been so close, to Ohio State, Michigan. He has his quarterback coming back, and I'm big on whoever has the best quarterback. If you really look at college football, the teams with the veteran quarterbacks who've been successful usually win. So look out for Penn State.
And to answer Michael Burton, I've invited Eric down to the swamp for a game. I don't know what he's waiting on. He got a place.
Oh,
he tripping. I don't know. He definitely. Eric doesn't need an invite to the game. Eric just needs to show up in Gainesville on Saturday, and he got a ticket to the game. But David, to you as well. As we kind of buckle down and kind of wind down, and really this thing starts on Saturday. What do you think this year is going to be like with all this realignment? You got Cal in the ACC. You got SMU. I asked Ben Troop the other day. I said, there's another ACC school playing in week 0. I said, who is it? And he obviously it was SMU. So, you got some of that.
Yeah.
Is that something that as a fan excites you? Does it get your journalism antenna up, or is it just –
Yeah, I am just glad it's here so we can stop talking about the stuff off the field and just talk and just watch this play out. And I think once it starts, that there's going to be at least one really great game every week. Where a must-see game, and sometimes 2 or 3. Like you have first week's lineup. Just if you're a college football fan, you're just going to prop up your feet at noon on Saturday. You have and you be watching through Sunday night, or I think it's Labor Day through Monday. And these are the kind of marquee matchup day, week after week. And I think once November hits, people talk about, well, maybe the playoffs have watered down. I think it's going to be the opposite, because teams are going, there's a lot at stake. You don't want to be playing, if you have the choice of hosting a game, in Austin, or playing, up at Eugene, something like that. That's a lot to play for. Right. And once the playoffs start, and it's going to be, I think they're going to be, and dare I say, a Caitlin Clark effect. Everybody's going to be watching, and they're going to be saying, "Man, we should have done this years ago."
All right. Well, Buddy, I think you wrote an article a long time ago, Buddy, kind of predicting this. So we'll give you the last word on this thing with your thoughts as it kind of comes to fruition. You predicted it.
I'm no Socrates here, but I just had a feeling a long time ago that if you're in the TV game, you got to get numbers and ratings. Now you get those just with good games. And a lot of teams don't play good games. And you go back even to Ohio State, they got those cream puff games. and everybody, Florida, they all had them. And I think when myself and another guy concocted this idea, he used to work for the NCAA. Why don't they actually have a playoff? I'm talking 1980. We're talking about this. Actually have a tournament and get rid of the teams that can't compete at that level. I think go be a group of 5, get a chance to get in, but emphasize the big boy schools, the marquee schools, and that's where you get the ka-ching on TV. And my suggestion was narrow it down to 65 or 70 teams. If you want to go back to Division II and have that for the other guys, fine. And that's what I wrote probably 15, 20 columns about. And then when it finally happened, and I saw what the result was, with the 12 teams, which I thought was good at first, I began to evaluate and thinking, oh my gosh, maybe we might have made a mistake here, because a lot of things went by the wayside. We can't afford to lose the traditions, can't afford the rivalries, and we've lost the rivalries already. So I think it's an exciting concept. I think it's going to be one of the most, despite all the controversy, NIL crap that goes on. I mean, look, a lot of people say NIL's been here for a long time already anyway. Know what I mean by that. But the deal is, I think we are set up for a really remarkable football season in college, and I can't wait for it to start. So let's hope it is everything we hoped it was.
Man, that's great stuff, guys. Eric, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you being on. If I had to catch one pass to save my life, I need you to throw it. That's my two.
Hey, and let me interrupt for the viewers. When you think of Lauren, for old school people, you think of Steve Largent. For our guys in the '90s, more of a Wes Welker. Before our new age fans, Cooper Cup. Lauren was if you needed a guy 3rd and 6, he was the guy you go to. Love you, Lauren. Your family. He's a great guy.
You as well.
Plug. You talking about getting me to Florida? I have a son, 6'1", 180. He's a cornerback.
Okay,
He will be a 5-star defensive back. I'm telling you now.
Video tonight, will you?
I just Lauren, if you check your phone, I sent you everything. So get me down to the swamp.
All right, Centerville, right?
Yeah.
Centerville?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I hope you'll come back on the show. Great job.
Yeah.
Anytime. Thank you, guys. Nice meeting you guys.
We're going to take a deeper dive, Eric. We're going to definitely have you back, man. And
thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye.
I will say good night to Eric. It's always great to have people like that who are knowledgeable. And, well, how'd it go, guys? Looks like you had a really good show tonight. You guys seem to have some magic chemistry together. And this Lauren Meadows is suddenly burgeoning as a really good host of talk shows. And after I saw him on Monday night, I thought, whoa, or Monday morning, I called him and said, that's it. You're ready. Knocked it out of the park. And, it was really great. And David, we always love you because you're so wacky. You're like wacky weatherman, David.
Well, like I said, I always want to pay my respects to Mr. Whitley. You talk about, we live in this world and that I've been blessed and thanks to Buddy and David as well, how these gentlemen operate. And, I would say to our viewers, if you're not reading David Whitley, you need to. Obviously, you read myself and Buddy, but you talk about humble and just going about it and doing the job the right way. I mean, I really appreciate it. Even when I see Mr. Whitley at the gym, we stop and we try to solve the world's problems in about 10 minutes and fix the state of the Gators. But I really appreciate it. And it's been a privilege to fill in for you tonight, Buddy. So,
Lauren,
you did a fine job. And I got to say, it's always a pleasure seeing him at the gym in that 10 minutes because I'm usually spotting him when he's doing his 400-pound bench press reps. That's impressive.
That's great. Well, nice job, fellas. David, always a pleasure to have you on. So we'll say good night. I'll wrap it up for you. And Lauren, you're on a run, buddy, on a roll. Keep it going.
You guys have a good night.
Night.
Good night. All right, folks, we'll wrap this up again saying thanks to our sponsors tonight. Always wanted to Brent Star Medical Research at the end. You did a terrific job in Ocala of clinical trials, getting information for you so we can find out more about the data we need to treat the people in our area. You'd be doing a great service, so check them out. Go to renstar.net as they have these clinical trials and sign up for one if you think you could do it and they're not difficult. You get a chance to get special investigational medicines, sometimes equipment, and you also help create data for our area, which can be used in biomedical companies to make us all healthier. So check them out. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Also, thank you to our good friends, Jeffrey Melton. We're going to start doing a little catch-up with Jeffrey here. We're going to have him on more often. He's always got interesting things to talk about. He's more than just a lawyer and a sponsor. He's had some really good things to talk about. So you'll see that soon. Don't forget my interview with Laura Rutledge tomorrow night on the program. And thanks again to our friends at Titan MRI. Have a good night, and we're back tomorrow night with Sweet and Sour. You know who that is? You should, Alan and David. Good night, folks.